Hello again, everybody. Well, this is it. We're in week 8 of our series through the book of Philippians, the journey. We're wrapping things up this week. Today is our last meeting of fall growth groups. So I hope this has been a good experience for you guys. I've sure enjoyed going through the scripture together with you. And as I've been saying the whole time, if you haven't yet read the passage together, this week we're looking at chapter 4, verses 10 through 23. If you haven't read it together yet, go ahead and stop now and read together. And if you haven't yet spent some time in prayer together, please do so before we go on. But if you're ready to go, I'm ready to go too. We're going to jump right in. Chapter 4, verses 10 through 23. And I'm just going to share my 5 observations to start conversation in your group. What shines through from this rich passage? The thing that jumped out to me is from verse 11. Well, one of the things that jumped out to me is from verse 11, where Paul says, I have learned to be content. And I love that Paul, for all of his confidence and all of his leading by example, he frequently refers to things that he's learning. And I like that contentment is one that he says he's learning. That is encouraging to me. That's maybe not just something that some people are more prone to than others. It's like a learned behavior, a spiritually learned behavior. I like that. The other thing that shines through to me, the verse 13 is a really, really famous verse. I mean, I remember memorizing it as a kid, Philippians 4:13. And I think, and a lot of people think that maybe it gets sort of decontextualized a lot. Maybe you could say misinterpreted, but I think really just decontextualized. I have a friend who's a Bible teacher, and he talks about there being verses in the Bible that people treat like it's a debit card, like you just put it in your wallet, and then you pull it out and throw it down when you need to pay for something. And he says that this is one of those verses. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I think that it's good to keep that in context. So that jumped out to me out of this passage as I was reading that verse in the context it's in, where Paul's talking about contentment and about learning to be content, whether he has a lot or has very little. And in that context, he says, either way, I can do it. I can do it either way through Christ who strengthens me. The second observation, I didn't really write anything down that's important except that my curiosity was piqued where at the end in his benediction he refers to Caesar, and I have no idea who that is. So I'm going to look that up later and figure out who Paul's talking about, who is Caesar. But that's just my question for myself, I think. Third observation, where is Christ in this passage? He's giving Paul strength. So I looked up, we've talked in these videos about using some other resources, Bible commentaries or other translations to try to get a little fuller understanding. And I was curious about something from this verse 13, and so I looked it up, and I have this Greek Bible that explains what things mean in Greek, because I don't speak Greek. But I looked it up, and it says that the word that is in the Greek is the present participle. So that means where Paul says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or who gives me strength. What he's really saying is Christ who is giving me strength, present participle. Like that's happening right now. Christ is giving me strength. So I like that he's showing Christ as being very, very active in his own life and in his understanding of contentment. Jesus is giving me strength. I like that. My fourth observation, next step, I said that there's a knowledge of God in this passage, and I think it's in verse 19, this idea that God will supply all your needs from his glorious riches. I think there's a connection to the contentment thing from there that is important for me to understand. If that's part of God's identity, if that's just who he is, he supplies all our needs, then I should, like Paul, learn to be content in want or in plenty. And his example the example for me to follow is this idea of Jesus giving him strength, Christ giving him the strength to be content and to recognize provision in his life. I feel like that's important for me to understand right now. So, and I didn't write anything down for the last observation as far as who could benefit from me sharing what I learned in this passage. Nothing jumped out. So those are my observations for the week, and that wraps up my involvement in this 8 weeks of growth groups with you guys. I hope this has been a good experience, and we'll talk to you soon.